What's up, comic book peeps? Welcome to another episode of Direct Edition. The channel is Frey Hall Direct Edition. And today we're going to be doing things a little bit different. I usually don't do tag videos. I usually don't do like contests and giveaways. But my boy, Gory J said that he's going to start a tag video, so I have to support that. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to do your childhood comic books. So I figured, hey, your backdrop today should be childhood movies to go along with the childhood comic books. So we have Short Circuit, we have Jurassic Park, we have Jumanji, we have Beetlejuice, Monster Squad, Goonies, Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, and we also have Edward Scissorhands. Now tell me, at least 3 out of those movies weren't in your childhood, and I'll tell you that you're lying. So without further ado, before we go any further in all my videos, except for my, countdown videos of top movies, let's get into our sponsor. And today's episode of Direct Edition is brought to you by My Fake Darth Maul from China. Alright, so you know how we do on Direct Edition. Let's get into some comics. And boom, right off the back, I'm just going to show you the first comic book that I ever owned. I do remember the first comic book that I ever picked up because the funny thing about my collecting is I didn't start with actual comic books. I actually started with the trading cards that came out in 1990, but they were dated like 1991. That's your Marvel's first series of the comic cards. That's why I began my obsession with comic books, and I bought a couple cards from this local comic book shop, and then that started a whole nother obsession. And then one day in the 6th grade, this guy was like, "Hey, I collect comics," and I was like, "Cool, let me see something." And he showed me this comic book, and I had already said from the comic cards when I was looking through them, I was like, "Hey, this guy Wolverine, he has like 3 cards." Um, but the cards caught my attention, definitely the Wolverine one. And I said, this is my favorite hero, so. And from that point on, I've always been a huge Wolverine fan ever since I got into comics. So this will be my first comic book. So, yeah. And I know one of the things that Gory was talking about was he was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to show the ones that are monetary value, the ones that are valuable to you. So this one is very valuable. It's not my original copy that I picked up. The original copy I picked up, I threw out with The Purge when I was in college because it was too like jacked up. I mean, a lot of my old school comics, I read so much that I would actually have to put staples in them to keep them together. So this is a nice, crisp, mint copy that I bought later on in my adulthood. And yeah, my first comic book. And to go along with that, Marvel Comic Presents Wolverine number 43. I wanted to also show you too. This is my Weapon X Mark Silvestri Wolverine number. What does that say? 48. Let's look. Yeah, number 48. This is one of my favorite Wolverine covers of all time because it basically touches on his past of him being in Weapon X, and it's just very cool, man. Mark Silvestri, man. How long has that guy's been drawing, man? That guy's been drawing for over 30 years. So very cool cover. Just wanted to show you that. Very cool from my childhood. And that's my original book. I actually managed to keep some books in mint condition. The rest of them, man, it's like I wrestled with them in a WWE ring. So that's your second book. And the last childhood Wolverine book I'm going to show you is Wolverine number 47. The reason why I'm showing you this is because this is one of probably my first solo Wolverine book that I ever bought. It's a real good cover, man. Real good book. It's basically about that kid that's holding that gun, and he's abusing his mom or whatever, and his little sister, and he's on drugs. He's popping pills, and Wolverine equates that story to the story of when him and Silver Fox were in the cabin, and his dog came home with rabies. So at the end of the book, you know what I'm saying, like the police asked Wolverine, she said, did you have the heart to put your dog down since it had rabies? Wolverine was like, no, my Silver Fox took the gun from me and shot the dog. And that's basically what happened to the little boy at the end of the book that's holding that gun. Wolverine didn't really want to kill him, and before Wolverine could make the choice if he was going to kill him or not, the police officer shot him and killed him. And ironically, she was a female too. So very good story, man. I miss those type of one-shot stories in Marvel, but yeah, these would be my favorite three Wolverine books from my childhood. That's not worth a lot of money. Now, earlier on, when I first started doing comic book hauls, I woke up with the epiphany to start collecting my Death of Supermans again. And all of my Death of Supermans I've had, except for the first appearance of Doomsday. But these are some of the books that are from my childhood that I managed to buy again. You know what I'm saying? And I just really, really like the Death of Superman because in 1992 that shocked the world. The Death of Superman was so big that people were actually reporting it on the news. So if you're a 90s kid or 80s kid, you know how significant the Death of Superman was. And all those books that follow under that run were very, very sentimental to me. They're very popular, very cool. And yeah, just wanted to show you that. So here's some more books out of my childhood. This is a book that I had stolen from me in college. And I always regretted that because it's such a good storyline where Spider Man and Venom have to team up to battle Carnage. So I always wanted this back in my collection. So, like recently, a couple months back, I went to this little hole in the wall place where the guy sold like old school Super Nintendos and stuff like that. And he had a couple CGC books, but they were priced out and I didn't like them. And then I looked over in the corner. And he was like, "Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? I got these comic books that's in the box. They're $1, but you won't find any that's of any value." And I was like, "Challenge accepted." And this is one of the books I pulled out straight from my childhood. So definitely love this Maximum Carnage, Spider-Man Unlimited, number two. Definitely, definitely out of my childhood. Now, if you want to talk about earlier comic books, one of my first comic books, this is definitely one of them. This is Robin. It's like a 5-part series, but I just remember having this cover. And as soon as I was able to replace the cover from my childhood, I jumped at the opportunity, and there it is. So yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, I forgot to show these two on the Death of Superman. So pretty cool, man. And all my Death of Superman books I've already had, like I said, for exception of the first appearance of Doomsday. But I rebought them because they're all ticked up in bad condition. So just wanted to show you these two. So let's keep rolling. Definitely had to show you this Silver Surfer. This cover rises up off the comic book. This is one of those silver foil covers. Definitely a straight shot in the arm to the 90s. Part of my childhood. And let's keep it moving. Now, I didn't pull all of them out, but what you know about this? This is the Age of Apocalypse Generation Next. Very, very good storyline, man. I was trying to pick up everything Age of Apocalypse when I was younger, but I couldn't possibly pick up all the title runs. Some of the title runs I didn't even know they had until I got older and I read the complete omnibus of the Age of Apocalypse that I borrowed from my friend Comic Book Window. But yeah, man, this is Generation Next. Very cool. Colossus and Kitty Pryde train the next generation of X Men. And the cool thing about this book is a lot of the characters that was introduced in this book actually end up bleeding off into the regular Marvel universe. I know one person is your boy, what's his name, who's like that rocky kind of mountain. Um, I'll figure out his name, but I just saw him in the X Men comic book, and I was like, hey, he's from Generation Next. So very cool, man. Love this run. Love my Age of Apocalypse. I really didn't feel like digging and pulling out Factor X, Weapon X, and all those other books. So these two will have to represent the whole Age of Apocalypse run that I have. And yep. So what y'all know about the X Men Extinction Agenda? I love that run. I love when the X Men had to go to what was it, Genosha, and yeah, first they sent Wolverine and Psylocke and Jubilee over, and then they got captured, and but they were basically trying to go over to Genosha and get back some of the. They weren't called the New Mutants. Cable's group was called X Force. They were trying to get a lot of the X Force kids back that got kidnapped from the Xavier Institute. And I just remember this girl who was the brainwashed Havoc's girlfriend, because Havoc was brainwashed at the time. His girlfriend, who was a magistrate for Genosha, man, she whooped Wolverine's behind. Now, I never seen Wolverine get mopped like that, but she mopped Wolverine. And it was a pretty cool moment, man. So definitely love my extinction agendas. And let's keep going with books out of my childhood. Come on now, 2099 fans. You definitely know these are a part of our childhood because you had X Men 2099, you had Punisher 2099, Ravage 2099, Spider Man 2099, Hulk 2099, and definitely one of my favorite runs out of all of them is Doom 2099. You allow my sexy fingers to interrupt your video. Look at all that goodness, all that foil goodness that the 80s and the 90s gave you. So definitely wanted to throw this on the list, Doom 2099. Now, come on, man. Everybody watched Batman animated series, and everybody knew when Batman got his back broke. So this is definitely my second copy. My beat up copy is still in the collection in the dungeon. I'm actually in the dungeon, but I'm talking about in the dungeon, another part of where I am. Basically, my garage. That's where I keep most of my old school books. The new ones that I picked up this year are here with me in my finished basement, which is basically the dungeon. So I have two parts of the dungeon. I have the basement, I have the garage. And this is the clean copy of Breaking the Bat, my second copy. I don't know what you guys do, but I know that any comic book in my childhood that I beat up pretty bad, I'll just buy it again, man, if I see it, no matter what the price is. So definitely love the Breaking of the Bat. Definitely love Tom Hardy's Bane. And let's keep it moving. So this is the Daredevil book that put him on the map for me. I thought it fell under the Fall of the Kingpin, but it actually falls under, it's called like Last Rites. It's a pretty cool storyline with Daredevil, Kingpin, and Typhoid Mary. So this will be one of my favorite Daredevil books that I picked up when I was a kid. Still have it in my collection. Still bought another copy to replace the old beat up copy. And yeah, let's keep it moving, man. So this is the books, or it's 4 or 5 of them. You know the covers, but these are the X-Men #1s that started it all. This coinciding with the X-Men cartoon series really raised a lot of us 80s and 90s kids. So I'm not going to show you all 5 covers. I'm just going to show you, this Magneto cover so we can keep it moving. But this is definitely part of my childhood. So this is one of the books that I've cherished for a long time. When I got older, I realized that the reason why I cherished it so much, this is Marvel Tales with Spider-Man and Dazzler. And the cool thing about this is an early McFarlane run and cover. And I've had this since my childhood, and I've always kept this in mint condition. I don't understand how some of my books I had in mint condition and others I just totally trash. But yep, this is definitely part of my childhood. All right, so let's keep it moving. But yeah, let's just, man, look at that McFarlane cover, man. Look at that. Look at that, man. Just beautiful. Look at Dazzler. So very cool, man. And Marvel Tales, really, they don't go for that much, but this one is a pretty popular one, so very cool. So even though this is a tag video, we're still going to do the video in a direct edition kind of format. And we're at the point in the video where you ask me, hey, Fred Hall, direct edition, what are you reading right now? And this is what I'm reading, man. This is Marvel's the 1960s, which is very cool, man. So this is not part of my childhood. This may be a part of your childhood if you're, a little bit older than me. But this is a pretty cool book, man. This was a gift by Comic Book Window. He gave it to me years ago. It had to be about 4 or 5 years ago. And since I finished up his Predator omnibus that he sent me, I said, hey, I might as well get to finally reading this book. And the reason why it took me so long to read this book is because a lot of your reprints I've already read in like the Marvel kind of milestone format. But this book is very cool. It's not one of your usual essential books. Your usual essential books come in black and white. This is in color. And if you look at the bottom, if you allow my sexy fingers to interrupt your video, it collects like the first Spider-Man, the first Avengers, the first Fantastic Four, the first Journey into Mystery with Thor. So it's a pretty cool book, man. So here's a cool look at the front of the book. And here's a very cool look at the back of the book. Very cool, man. I really appreciate this gift from Comic Book Window. And, you know what I mean? Some of the gifts that you get, it take you a while, but when you finally get around to them, you enjoy them. So this is one of them. So like I said, even though this is a tag video, we're still going to do it kind of like in a direct edition format. So after we do this, we usually go ahead and get into your main events. So let's get into your main events. And this is the top books or the books from your childhood. So let's get into your main events. Okay, your first main event will be X-Men #3. This will be one of my favorite X-Men covers by Jim Lee. This is the X-Men versus the X-Men. I've already explained this on one of my videos, but a quick synopsis of this is some of the X-Men went up to the gold or the blue team, went up to Asteroid M, and you had one of the acolytes who were a follower of Magneto brainwash them into those X-Men actually fighting for Magneto. And so when Professor X sent the second wave up there to rescue them, they all got into one big brawl. So that's the front cover that you see by Jim Lee, X-Men versus X-Men. This is X-Men #3. And I think this is a worthy opponent for your main event because it's cool, man. And this captivates everything of the 90s X-Men because they even had a 2-part episode in the X-Men cartoon where they kind of touched on this. It wasn't X-Men versus X-Men, but it was basically called something like a Haven or something like that, where it touched on Asteroid M. So very cool, man. And that's your first main event. Straight out of my childhood. And your last main event and book straight out of my childhood would be Spawn, period. Because I've always liked Marvel, but when they introduced when they said that Image was going to launch, the biggest catcher in Image Comics, or the biggest thing in Image Comics, was Spawn, hands down. And Spawn still runs strong to this day. This defines any child that collected in the 80s or the 90s. I'm sorry. Spawn was everything, and he deserves the top spot as far as my childhood collection and my childhood books. So that's it. Period. And if you'll allow my sexy hand to interrupt your video, that one over there, that's a cover swipe from McFarlane's Spider-Man #1. And the cool thing about Spider-Man #1, or any of the Spider-Mans that McFarlane drew, is that you would have to count the amount of spiders that were in the covers, because he always put a certain amount of spiders in the covers of his Spider-Man run. But Spawn put McFarlane on the map. He was already on the map. And Image actually gave Marvel and DC a big headache in the 90s, because, this is the first time that people broke off and told DC and Marvel, like, hey, we own our own characters, and that's what we're going to do. So I remember hearing the whispers through the Wizard magazines and through my friends that Marvel and DC was in trouble because this is new entity coming. And as soon as Image launched, I jumped all over Wildcats. I jumped all over Brigade. I jumped all over Supreme, Youngbloods, and definitely Spawn is at the top of the list. So there you have it. So once again, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Direct Edition. The channel is Fred Hall Direct Edition. Words of wisdom. Focus on the ones that show you love, on the ones that don't show you any love. Hey man, keep it moving. I pray that you guys be successful, and I will catch you guys later. Special shout out to Gory J for starting this tag challenge, and I hope you guys keep it moving and keep it rolling. Don't let it stop with me. This is an open tag, okay? So when it's an open tag, that means that, hey, you don't have to wait for your name to be called. You just make your favorite childhood comic book video. You guys be safe out there. And once again, I pray that you guys be successful in everything that you do in life. Peace.